So we're gonna go live. It's the first one of the season. So stay quiet, guys. Mics are hot. And essentially, I'll let you know when to come in. Y'all excited?
Yep.
I said, are you all excited?
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, we're gonna be starting off like that. Then I see. All right, Andre, take it away. We're gonna go to live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Race fans, the 100% series welcomes you to the IROC division for the beginning of this season here at Charlotte. I'm Andre Grambush, joined alongside Cody Bird, and of course, Carlos Acosta, the man pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your televisions and computer screens. Cody, this is going to be a lot of fun here at Charlotte. Weather conditions up on the screen. Nice, cool track. And of course, we're going to be running some sports cars around this track in place of the IROC cars. So a lot of grip, a lot of really good handling cars. These guys are going to be able to duke it out for 60 laps tonight. And yeah, what are you looking forward to, Cody?
I'm just excited to be up here and be broadcasting with you tonight, Andre. Most looking forward to seeing the tight racing. Been tuning into some of their practice, and it's been tight racing. 2-3 wide most of the practice, and we'll see what if we don't get a surprise winner by the end of tonight.
Absolutely, and just a brief explanation what this series is. Now, we ran this last year as well. I think you know a thing or two about that, Cody. We broadcasted it last year with you, and basically what this is the admins of the 100% Cup Series, after their season has concluded every year during the off-season, they invite champions and really talented drivers from other leagues on iRacing that they scout out and find, and they extend invitations to those drivers for a multi-race series, full series points format, where we take these cars, paint them up like the old IROC cars, and we see who's the best. Now, this season is going to be 4 races, the first of which, of course, being right here at Charlotte, and we have, I believe, 13 contenders that have accepted invitations for the IROC series, and hopefully we will have a full 13-car field tonight. But as they finish up practice, there will be no qualifying. All qualifying is done through a pill draw, so it is completely random. Every driver is going to be starting based on where their name is drawn. So, as you can see on screen, Cody, these cars are pretty quick, but they're not exactly stock cars. They're not exactly Indy cars, so it's really a lot of wide open racing. And really the only time you're going to be lifting is if you're trying to get away from the bumper of the guy in front of you, give somebody some room. Other than that, you're going to be holding it wide open. It's going to be very reminiscent of pack racing. I think the draft is going to be really important. How difficult is it going to be in such a tight pack, Cody?
I think it's going to be really difficult for the people who may not race ovals all the time. I believe there are some people who just do road course racing. And as a result, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of adjust to racing in a tight pack, because most road course races you see it spread out 2-3 seconds between guys. They're going to be right on top of each other tonight, and it should provide for some great racing today and give us some exciting finishes, kind of what we saw last year. Andre, you may remember the first race of the year was a dead tie. And of course, the championship came down to 1 point. So hopefully we're provided with that over this 4-race season.
Yeah, the first race of last season was a nail-biter, to be sure. Probably the only 0.000 tie I've ever seen on iRacing. But it's really going to be fascinating to watch how these guys handle these cars, because you see this kind of pack racing at tracks like Talladega and Daytona, and the difference there is they're very wide tracks. The corners are very sweeping. You have a lot of room to maneuver. Charlotte is really one of the more narrow 1.5-mile tracks. There's not a whole lot of room to play with. If these guys get 2-3 wide, especially in the tri-oval, it's going to get tense, and they're going to have to really be aware of what's going on around them. Pay attention to the drivers, pay attention to the mirrors, and just watch everything as we have Benefield making his way down pit road. Only about 1.5 minutes worth of practice remaining, then we'll go again straight to the grid. There will be no qualifying. Just a quick rundown of some of the rules in this series. If I can find, I had the document here. Give me 1 second. So you will not be able to pit under green. You will be able to pit under green. You can't pit under yellow. If you pit under yellow, you'll be awarded a 1-lap penalty. and that is going to be very difficult to overcome in such a short 67 lap event. You can pit under green and you can take tires. That is something you have the option of doing. Additionally, there will be bonus points for laps led. So if you can lead laps, get bonus points. That's going to be really important, Cody, because we've only got, again, 4 races this season. So you're going to want to get as many points as you can whenever you can. And you're going to watch these guys really trade off positions trying to get that lap led. Finally, caution laps will not count in this event. So when caution flag flies, the lap count will be frozen and we will not burn any laps under caution. I think that's probably a good decision, given that this race is so short. You don't want to see too many laps wasted under caution. But looks like practice is finishing up here, Cody. So let me go ahead and pull out the starting grid. Now, do you have the starting grid pulled up, Cody? Do you have that available to you?
I can pull it up real quick.
All right. Well,
I
while
should
you
have
pull
had
that up, I'll go ahead and take 1 through 7, and I'll hand 8 through 13 to you. On the poll tonight, through the pill draw, it's going to be Adam Benefiel, 100% Cup Series champion for this year. Kevin Steele is going to be starting on his outside P2. David Stringle is going to round out row 2 in the inside with Timothy Latham alongside him. Alex Van Desant is going to be in 5th alongside Cam Stone in 6th. Cam Stone, of course, was last year's 100% Cup Series champion. And 7th place is going to be Nate Siefker. Cody?
So starting 8th is Jonathan Delaney. 9th will be Craig Fryer. 10th would be Joseph Stafford. 11th, Marshall Stanley. 12th, Bryson Hicksonball. 13th, Robert Miller. And that will wrap out our field here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
And again, a very talented field. All these guys know a thing or two about wheeling these cars around the track. So it's really hard to make predictions. I mean, even if the cars weren't so close in speed, even if it wasn't kind of this pack racing that we're going to be seeing here, it would still be really difficult to make a prediction just because these guys are all so accomplished in what they do. And really, a lot of them are taken out of their element. I would say, yes, some of these guys may have a little bit of an advantage if they are primarily oval racers. You did mention, Cody, that, yeah, some of these guys in this race primarily come from road racing leagues. But that does not mean they're completely clueless when it comes to an oval. I think a lot of these guys are going to have a good idea what they're doing, but some guys may be more comfortable than others, and it's just going to be interesting to see where it all shuffles out. One thing that I'm trying to rack my brain around is how many caution flags are we expecting, Cody? Because in my mind, I'm thinking it could go either way. We could have a caution-free race with how good these guys are, or we might have a lot of yellow flags just because of the close proximity they're going to be racing in.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that statement. We really do not know. I'm sure you remember at the start of the 100% season earlier this year, I think we had a crazy stat of going 4 straight races without a caution. That's heard of out on the server. Now you throw 13 of the best guys on iRacing into a race. I think we can probably expect 1 or 2, I would say, is my guess for number of cautions.
I'd say that's a good bet, and we are coming out of turn 3 and 4. Pace car is going to be peeling off this time, not making any additional pace laps, getting right into the action. Rolling out of turn 4, there goes the pace car, and it is going to be Adam Benefiel leading the pack to the green flag, and what a jump he got right down on that blue line. They're going to go side by side behind him, and this is where it's going to get interesting. I think you're going to see a sort of situation like Daytona and Talladega, where if the leader gets too far out, the draft is going to help those guys behind him catch up. So we've really single filed out Kevin Steele in 3rd. He's pushing Stringle on the outside line. And again, showing how powerful the draft is. Benefiel got stuck on the bottom. Everybody saw that, said, hey, I'm going to go up on the top where there's other cars. And that worked because now Stringle is going to take P1 in that machine, and he's got Steele in tow. But here goes Steele looking to get the lead. He moves right down to the bottom, wastes no time. 2 tires in the grass through the tri-oval there, Cody. And now we have another new leader, Kevin Steele, as a battle develops behind him.
Yeah, Kevin Steele definitely wants to repeat as champion, as we see Timothy Latham going for 2nd on David Stringle, who does not complete the pass.
And he's going to try it again down on the bottom. Another crossover. That's going to put him up into the lead for this lap. I'm not sure if Kevin Steele has a lap lead point yet. I don't think he led last lap. He didn't lead that one. He's going to have to make sure he makes the move at the right time if he wants to secure that point. But he's got Latham and Van Desant right behind him, and they're forming up in the draft. I'm noticing there are a few holdouts on the high line, but ultimately nobody really knows where everybody is going to go. They kind of single file out on the straightaway, then they get to the corner and you have this split where some drivers like Latham move up to the top, some drivers like Van de Sant stick to the bottom, and ultimately it's going to be a game of catching the right draft at the right time. Here comes Stringle as Kevin Steele does lead a lap. That's going to give him some bonus points. 3 wide for the lead coming into turn 1 at Charlotte. Stringle on the bottom, Steele in the middle, Latham up top. And they're going to stay door-to-door, rounding this corner onto the backstretch. A little bit of a side draft, which is something you can do in these cars, believe it or not. And 3 wide still. And then they finally sort it out. Now it's only a 2-way battle for the lead. Kevin Steele on the bottom, Latham up top. The number 16, Van de Sant, trying to work his way up the grid. And it sounds like we might have had an issue with Adam Benefiel as he comes up on the radio and apologizes to Nate Siefker for something. I'm not entirely sure what he was apologizing for, but nonetheless, Cody, there is action all over the track.
Yeah, definitely threw out my prediction of an early single-file race. Going back to Adam Benefield, it sounded like he may have felt like he was lagging and just reached out and apologized on that, so he made sure that he knew no contact was on purpose. As we have Timothy Latham leading lap number 5.
Now that lag with Adam Benefield or whatever might have plagued him there actually caused a bit of a split. For a second, we had 2 distinct packs. We had the lead pack, then we had a second pack spearheaded by Marshall Stanley. As we got a car down on the apron, a car blinking, that is Adam Benefield. So connection issues continuing for the 100% Cup Series champion. He's going to drop all the way to last. He's off the pace. So he and Hicksonbaugh are going to be the very tail end of the field. And Robert Miller has moved up 2 positions so far, right behind Jonathan Delaney. But the 2 distinct packs that we were seeing, we have that again, except now the lead car in the second pack is going to be Joe Stafford. And he is going to try to cling on to the draft from the car ahead. And I don't know, this is a bit of a risky situation, Cody, because if he falls much further back, he's going to struggle to stay in that draft, and he might find himself losing time.
Something I've definitely noticed so far in this race is how much closer together these cars stay compared to the Cup cars, and how we have the 2 3-wide racing. It definitely makes it interesting for us up here, and hopefully for the viewers as well. But it's definitely providing interesting racing, and shows that why these guys are the best on the iRacing server. Having 13 different drivers coming from road, coming from oval racing. These road guys aren't messing around on these ovals.
No, they are not. And as we're talking, we've got another battle for the lead that never really dissipated. We've got Van de Sant and Latham battling side by side. They have been door-to-door pretty much for the entirety of the last 5 laps, and neither driver giving an inch. Cameron Stone has been working that high line, trying to push Latham towards the lead, sort of like Kevin Steele did earlier in the race for Stringle. But they haven't been able to get that run that Kevin Steele was able to get. So I'm not sure if the bottom line is just coming in a little bit more, or maybe Cameron Stone just isn't quite as bold with the bump drafts and the pushes, because, yeah, you can bump draft, but one thing to keep in mind is doing what Kevin did early in this race is a bit of a risk. You know, these bumpers are not very flat, and they're not very well aligned. You make one wrong move, you give the push at just the wrong angle, and with everybody being as close as they are, you could be looking at a full field pileup. So maybe a little bit of hesitance from Stone as he's letting these leaders battle it out.
Yeah, Cameron Stone definitely moved up there quick, and we've seen him push people before, and especially last year pushing people into a situation that backfires for him. But he's showing that he's ready to work to get to the front and willing to work with whoever to get to the lead. He definitely wants to have some redemption after last year's IROC showing.
Yeah, Cameron Stone definitely, I'm glad you mentioned that. He did have a very bad run at the IROC Series last year. A lot of bad luck, a lot of misfortunes that really weren't his fault. And I'm sure he feels like he wants to come into this race and kind of get some redemption, as well as Bryson Hicksonbaugh. You know, he's a little bit further back in the pack right now, and by that I mean he is currently second to last. And that is kind of the Bryson Hicksonbaugh strategy. Every time you go to a plate track, every time you have this style of racing, Bryson likes to lay back. He likes to just let everybody else sort it out until the end of the event when it matters. Then you see him pick up the pace and start racing. Another driver right in front of Hicksonbaugh, look at that, Kevin Steele, who led a lap early, got those bonus points. Now he has fallen back through the grid. He's joined Bryson Hicksonbaugh. And I think he kind of felt like Bryson's got the right idea. He said, all right, I got my bonus points for leading a lap. I'm going to drop back where there's, a little bit of a cushion, a little bit of safety, and I'm going to let these guys sort it out. So interesting to see the strategy as up front, Stringle trying to push Van de Sant to the lead again. Latham and Van de Sant continuing to trade off that number one position. Cameron Stone trying to give him a shove, a little bit of a contact maybe coming on to the trial between the leaders, but no harm, no foul. That's kind of the beauty of these cars. You can kind of beat and bang with them, and they don't pick up a whole lot of damage. That's what these cars are kind of designed for. So you might see a few bumps here and there, and ultimately it shouldn't really be too big of a deal. But look at this. We got one car really diving out of the line. That's Stanley in the number 2. When they got to the straightaway, he dove down, and I'm not sure if he was trying to catch the draft from Cameron Stone or if he was trying to break the draft of the car behind him. But either way, it was definitely a deliberate thing. A lot of strategy going on here, Cody, trying to pick and choose their lane.
And I'll be interested to see what type of teamwork happens between certain drivers. Obviously, most of this field is made up of those 100% guys who have raced with each other before. Are they all going to work together to bring the IROC championship to 100%, and the other guys are going to team up to bring it to an outside? Or are we just going to see that all go out the window, and potentially drivers we don't really ever see work together end up working together? Like, we all know the incidents John's had with certain drivers. Are they going to work together to get around him? We going to have to wait and find out, I guess.
That is a good point. Some of these guys are familiar with each other, and some of these guys really aren't. So that could definitely play into the trust level these guys have, but also they've got time to build that trust between drivers. Obviously, these guys, especially up front, have been racing side by side, lap after lap. We've seen these drivers kind of try to help each other, draft with each other. And at this point, I think everybody kind of knows where they lie, who's an ally, who's not, who can they trust. And as this race continues, they're only going to further that knowledge and kind of get more familiar with one another. So it may start out as a disadvantage, but it's definitely something they can work through. As while we're talking, Cameron Stone and Stringle have kind of moved around 180. It was Cam on the top and Stringle up on the bottom, or down on the bottom, but now they've reversed. Cameron Stone's taking the bottom, Stringle's up high. And I'm not sure if that was a deliberate maneuver by both of them, maybe not wanting to be in the lane they were in, or if maybe that was just a product of them constantly trading off positions, because that's one thing to think about, Cody. In pack racing, you don't always get to choose your lane necessarily. Sometimes you get forced into a lane, and until the traffic clears up, there's not much you can do about it. So that's something these guys have to worry about. But there goes Latham to the front, and he actually gets clear of Van de Sant. Question is, does he slide up and throw a block? No, he doesn't. He's going to allow Van de Sant to get the run and remain side by side. These guys have been battling pretty much the entire race, Cody. They are not giving up at all.
None at all. And what's impressive about it, like I mentioned about the trust, they're leaning on each other, racing side by side for 20 laps now. I think the trust has been established early on in this race, which is great to see for just the competition aspect of it. Obviously, this year with the 4 tracks, I believe next week is Lime Rock, where some of these guys probably have raced at 10, 15 times, if not more. Some guys may not have any experience, and same goes for Charlotte. And to see side-by-side racing this early on, not single file, and especially the beautiful cars as well, Andre. They really sparkle out there.
Oh, yeah. These cars are absolutely gorgeous on track. Not only the cars themselves, but of course, the paint schemes created by Kevin Steele of Apex Designs. But we do have our first taker down pit road, possibly for fuel and tires. It's going to be Kevin Steele, as well as Bryson Hicksonbaugh also sitting on pit road. So we have a few early adopters. Adam Benefiel joins them in that Eiffel 65 blue, number 11. Bryson Hicksonbaugh working his way out of pit road now. He's driving the Victoria's Secret pink, number 14. These are the actual color names, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of Kevin Steele. But among the drivers still on track, Cody, that have not made their way down pit road, I've been riding along with Craig Fryer, and I got to tell you, I like where he's at right now. He's just behind this lead pack. He's got a little bit of a buffer between him and Joe Stafford in that Felver Orange number 3. And that buffer could be what makes or breaks a sort of survival situation. If a wreck were to break out, he's got time to react, a lot of positions to gain here. I feel like he's in a pretty good spot, but Jonathan Delaney actually muscled his way around him as I was talking about him. So Delaney finally, after about 23 laps in this event, has decided that he is going to try to work his way towards the front. And I got to wonder, when is everybody else going to pit? Because we already had 3 takers down pit road, Cody. If you're out on track, what do you do?
Well, I'm not going to do my best Larry Mack impression and talk about the trends of the race because there is no trends, as this is the first race with these cars. But I would imagine the first person from this group that I can see pitting around, I want to say about halfway, will be John Delaney in that Baja Blast car. I know he was really excited about getting the Baja Blast car, as that was one of his sponsors during this year. And he enjoys that color. So I could see that happening. I could see Robert Miller being a little aggressive in the Victoria's Secret, Taylor Swift red car. Trying to be a little aggressive, maybe pitting here in the next 2 to 3 laps. But again, we really have no reference to know how the tire wear is falling off. From what I heard prior to the race, there is some tire fall off, but I wouldn't quite know how severe that is.
Well, I'd have to say there's a little bit of tire fall off. I think the car is getting tight on these drivers as the tires wear because on the beginning of a run on fresh tires, they're not lifting at all. And when they get into the corner on worn tires, there's just about a second or 2 of lift. But real quick, I want to point out, I'm riding along right now with Adam Benefiel, and all 3 drivers who made their way down pit road already actually cycled out close enough that they were able to get into each other's draft. And I like what they're doing right now. They're not battling with each other, Cody. They're not going side by side. What they're doing is they're staying single file. They're bump drafting with each other. They're trying to make sure they maintain as much momentum out of the main pack as they possibly can. Now, if they had pitted separately, if they had cycled out just far away enough that they couldn't get each other's draft, they would be sitting ducks because that lead pack has the draft. Their lap times are going to be significantly quicker around other cars. So the ability to actually pit together and cycle out the way they did, I think that is going to be a saving grace for them. And up front, the battle still continues 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 all the way back. Cameron Stone still trying to get a lap lead. He's not quite made his way to the front yet, but he is pushing Latham once again, trying to get towards the front. And speaking of Latham, here he goes down to the bottom of Van Sant. He's going to try to take the lead back.
Something else you mentioned about the 3 cars that were teaming up back there with Kevin Steele, Bryson Hickson Ball, and Adam Benefiel. They're part of a technical alliance next year, and 100%. So that trust is already coming into a factor. So it'll be interesting to see if that continues all race when they start getting aggressive, as it looks like we have a battle for first again with Latham and Van Sant.
Yeah, this battle really has just not gone anywhere. We've been green for 29 laps, and these guys have been pretty much side by side for 20 of them, if not more. So, whoa, Stringle down into the infield grass. Shades of Dale Earnhardt. He goes through the grass, saves it, brings it back up on track, and he's no worse for wear. He barely even lost a position there, Cody. What an impressive save.
Yeah, that's something that will be exciting to see as well, with how these drivers are able to save incidents. Save when potentially in incidents, because with these cars and being so close, if you drop even a second back of that last car, you'll probably end up a lap down very quickly. And you want to maintain that momentum, want to maintain that position on track with track position, because you don't want to lose the draft and go a lap down, which may be hard to recover.
And here comes Cameron Stone on the bottom. I was just about to mention, I think the patience levels are wearing thin with the number 13 machine of Stone, because he was getting up on the bumper of the drivers in front of him, really jostling his way up the field, trying to get a lap lead, but unfortunately never quite got to the front. And he's got Jonathan Delaney behind him, and what a storied history these 2 drivers have with one another. At one point, very good friends on and off the track, to now maybe not so good friends on or off the track. So not sure how these guys are going to race each other. Not sure how much cooperation there's going to be between the number 4 and the number 13. But nonetheless, they're going to have to cooperate if either of these guys want to get the bonus points for leading a lap. Because right now, Van de Sant has that lead locked down. Siefker trying to take it on the high line. But man, Van de Sant all night long, Cody, has been definitely one of the best defensive players out here tonight because nobody has been able to secure the pass. They've been able to get up alongside of him. Some of these drivers have been able to sneak a lap lead, just nosing him out at the line, but nobody has been able to get around him and hold it. So it's going to be a tall order for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, just as you were about to say, it looked like we were about to have a lead change. Do we?
Well, Siefker did lead that lap. He did lead the lap, but now look at this. Back on the bottom, here comes that number 16, and that's the defense I'm talking about. You know, you can get alongside of him. You might be able to sneak that lap lead, but man, that run he's getting out of the corner, something he's doing with that car, something in that driving style is just really, really working. As here comes Cameron Stone down on the bottom. He's going to get alongside Siefker, and look at that. Robert Miller in the number 6 machine in that Taylor Swift red, number 6. Worked his way up from the back of the pack all the way up to the lead fray here. Jonathan Delaney pushing Latham, then dropping down low. A little bit loose out of the number 4, and again, able to save it. That's going to be a reoccurring theme, I think, in this IROC series, Cody. These cars are so easy to save, and they can take such a beating. We're going to see these guys really go at it.
Absolutely, and just checking my notes, Van de Sant came from a IR18 or Dallara IR18 champion with Dallara IR18 series. Sorry for the mispronunciation there, Dallara, if you're watching. But those cars, I've ran them a couple times, and they are kind of hard to drive, and they do take talent, where you can't just hop in and go fast right away. So this may be a perfect series that suits him to be competitive for all 4 races.
And it definitely could be. I mean, the driving style, although the cars are very different, and these cars are not near as fast as the Dallara cars, it is a very similar driving style. When you're driving those Indy cars and the Dallaras, it's all about momentum conservation. You want to carry as much momentum as you can through the corner because a lot of it is, you know, especially on an oval circuit, is going to be wide open, full throttle racing. So what you do is you try to run the best line possible that when you keep it wide open and when you turn the wheel just right, you maintain as much momentum as physically possible. And if you do that, that's how you secure those wins. And honestly, we're seeing a very similar driving style here. It's not entirely wide open. Now that these guys are on worn tires, there's a little bit of a lift going into the corner. But for the most part, these guys are focused on momentum conservation. And so it sounds like Van de Sant might know a thing or two about that, and it's definitely paying dividends as he is continuing to hold on to the lead. But here comes Cameron Stone for the first time trying to make a bid at the lead, a legitimate bid here. He's got a chance. He slides up in front of Siefker just barely. Could not have put a piece of paper between those guys. But Van de Sant maintaining the lead. Here comes Delaney. Does he push Stone or does he try to pass him? It looks like he is going to stay behind him, not by choice, though. Looks like he kind of got cut off as they come down the backstretch. Who does he help? He's going to move up to the top line. That leaves Cameron Stone out to dry. Less cars to help him draft, and down through the order he goes. Now it's a battle for second between Stone and Delaney. Contact coming through the corner. 13 car gets loose. 15 is making contact with Miller. Miller's in the wall. We got cars all over the place. Latham pushing Cameron Stone now. Robert Miller gathers it back up. He's lost a lot of time. He's a little bit off pace, but he should be all right. Wow.
Yeah, I think that answered our question, too, about Cameron Stone and Jonathan Delaney about if they're going to end up working together. And it also looks like Robert Miller has some right rear damage right behind the tire from that incident.
And our leader, Van de Sant, is coming down pit road. Sounds like we have an incident. Stringle spinning into pit road, hard into the sand barrels. And Cameron Stone involved as well. No yellow flag as of yet. We're going to try to dial up a replay if we can and see exactly what happened. Because that was quite a turn of events.
Yeah, that took out most of the lead pack in that incident. It looked like Cam Stone was just late getting on the brakes that caused that.
Well, and you know, it's surprising, too, because Van de Sant had clearly called out that he was coming down pit road. We're taking a look at the replay now, top of the screen. Yeah, no, it was not Stone. It was Stringle. just a little bit late on the brakes. He tried to stop. He had those tires locked up, but unfortunately just slid into Cameron Stone and then the sand barrels, which, man, Cody, you might have to ask him about paying rent. Those are your sand barrels.
Yeah, I was waiting for that comment. Yeah, just locked it up and went right into the side. Hey, he hit it with the side, though, not the front end. So, they're
Man,
not quite his yet.
That's a lot of damage he took from that. A hard impact. Wouldn't think he took that much damage. Seemed like it might have been low speed, but quite a bit of damage. And that's not going to be good for Cameron Stone. That's going to hold him up quite a bit. Time lost pitting under green is just absolutely amplified compared to time lost pitting under yellow. But now, speaking of yellow flags, there is a caution flying on the speedway. Sounds like Craig Fryer may have been involved. He's down in the infield grass that appears to be turns 1 and 2. And he's going to get it fired back up. He's going to roll out of the infield grass. And we'll try to dial up replay, see what happened to that machine. All right, here we go. Taking a look at the replay, Cody. He's on the apron. I think he's coming out of the pits. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just a little bit. A little bit too much throttle, a little bit loose on the apron, hard into that outside wall, and that's a beat race car, Cody. There ain't much of that left to go on board. Right-hand drive cars, of course, and gets up on that banking shift, and you can see the counter steer right there, but unfortunately for him, it snapped around, and once he hit that wall, that could be the end of his night, Cody. That's a lot of damage.
That is something that definitely will not buff out in one stop. Brings back shades of Mikey Waltrip at Bristol when he hit the wall, and the car in Talladega.
Absolutely. I should note, just an update on the rules. We did mention that you can't pit under yellow. You will be served a 1-lap penalty if you do so. However, if you were involved in a crash and you have damage, you are allowed to pit and fix that damage so long as you don't take tires or do anything else to the car. You can come down pit road, try to get the fenders beat out, get the old dent plunger out, and try to fix that thing up. So we do have a number of cars doing that. Cameron Stone made a very short trip down pit road, not fixing too much damage. However, Craig Fryer, not so lucky. He's been on pit road for quite some time, alongside Stringle as well. So looks like Robert Miller also getting that right rear damage fix that you were talking about, Cody, when he got into the wall in the tri-oval. So 3 cars getting their machines fixed on pit road, and the rest of the drivers are working their way around the track. Lights are still on the pace car, so we're going to go around again. But I got to wonder what this means for Cameron Stone, as that car looks pretty heavily damaged. In fact, he does not have a rear deck lid, and he does not have a spoiler. Now, I could imagine a scenario in which having a spoiler might actually be slowing him down just slightly. Obviously, extra downforce does come at the cost of speed reduction. So maybe, just maybe, if the alignment isn't knocked out on that number 13 machine, Cameron Stone may have an advantage in the draft, but an absolute disadvantage in handling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've experienced having no deck lid, and my car feels super fast, but the minute I try to go through a corner, that car just wants to step out. Yeah, that car has definitely seen better days. Looking at this view of the car, it would be interesting to see how many cars ended up with damage after that pit road incident. Just an unfortunate situation all around. After hearing from the top of the box of Cameron Stone's car, they had it planned out perfectly, and just stuff happens that's out of your control.
Yeah, that's kind of the story of Cameron Stone's IROC experience. Honestly, he last season he had a very similar experience in most of the races, just getting caught up in things that weren't really his fault. But again, you can't really fault anybody here. I mean, even the car that got into him was just trying to get slowed down. When it comes down to it, David Stringle was on the brakes trying to get down pit road just like anybody else. And the thing is, these guys don't know these cars very well. They don't know how the brakes are, especially because, again, this is wide open racing. These guys probably haven't touched the brakes in over half an hour. So they're not going to be super familiar with the braking that is required to get these things slowed down. They're not sure how the car is going to handle under braking. A lot of these guys are just a little bit out of their discipline, a little bit out of their comfort zone. These are unknown cars to a lot of these drivers. So you're going to see little mistakes like that. And it's not really anybody's fault. It's just a learning curve. Now, obviously, this being the first race, you're probably going to see more mistakes tonight than you will in future races because these guys will get it figured out eventually. As we are 1 to green, Craig Fryer with a heavily damaged car making his way out of the pits again. Hopefully, he does not duplicate his mistake from before. But Craig Fryer, his damage is a little bit interesting because that left rear of the spoiler, Cody, is up in the air a little bit more, which actually would help him to turn left, which is what we're doing. So, man, I'm curious to see how all this damage affects these drivers. But mostly, we've had a huge shakeup up front as we make our final pace lap. Jonathan Delaney is going to be leading them to green alongside Joe Stafford in the number 3. Marshall Stanley is going to be row 2. Bryson Nixonboff, the furthest up he's been all night long. He's going to be P4. Behind them, Kevin Steele and Adam Benefiel. Timothy Latham and Alexander Van de Sant are going to be the next rows. So Van de Sant, who was leading the majority of this race, now he finds himself a lot further back through the grid. He's got some cars to pass, and the lights go back on, Cody. So we have had the caution extended now.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see, like, the first half of the race, they were side by side every lap. Now, we're under halfway to go. Is it going to be 3-4 wide going around Charlotte? I mean, if I was out there racing 4 wide around Charlotte, I don't know if I would be a huge fan of that this early. But again, I'm also not one of these drivers who are able to go 3 and 4 wide and not blink. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And we also, like you mentioned, have a full field shakeup pretty much. Obviously, Alex was leading the majority of this race. Now he's back in 11th place. And the whole race has turned up on its head.
That it has. Another thing to mention is some of these guys still have to pit, I believe. Obviously, a lot of these drivers did make their way down pit road, but I believe there might be a handful that didn't make it before the yellow flag. So we'll have to see if there were any drivers that kind of caught the misfortune of not being able to pit. But the majority of these guys did. So for a lot of these guys, it's just going to be a shootout to the end. We're on lap 42 out of 67, so we really are coming to the closing of this event, and it's going to be go time. If you thought the racing was close and action-packed early on in this event, I think it's only going to get crazier because some of these drivers that know they have speed, like Van de Sant, well, they got to pass a lot of cars to get up front, and they're not going to have much time to do it. So this is going to be one whale of a restart as Joe Stafford rides alongside Jonathan Delaney. Pace car pulls off to pit road, or it will momentarily. The question is, when does Jonathan Delaney start him? It is at his discretion. John's going to pull a John. He's going to wait to the last possible minute, get on the throttle, and didn't give him too much of an advantage. It was a decent jump, but Stanley, I would say, got the best restart out of anybody. He was able to rocket from row 3 now all the way up to battling for second, and he is going to stay down on the bottom. Lots of cars on that bottom line. That draft is going to be absolutely huge, as we do have a car blinking from my perspective. That is Adam Benefiel. Adam Benefiel continuing to have internet issues, except now he couldn't drop back if he wanted to, Cody. He's in the middle of this pack, and if that blink reoccurs, it could be trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I know me personally, whenever I see a blinking car out on track, I'm trying to get around them as quick as possible just because, and Latham coming down pit road here. I believe he had a black flag that he needed to serve.
He either had a black flag or he may have been one of the drivers misfortunate enough not to make it down pit road. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, he's made his way down pit road, and all the while, Jonathan Delaney out front by a wide margin. Really one of the most comfortable leads we've seen all night. About as comfortable as you can be with about 5 rows of 2 wide cars behind you. Another thing I want to mention, at the tail end of this lead pack, we have Cameron Stone, who does not seem to be too hindered by this damage, Cody. He is actually on pace with these guys, especially down the straightaway. Watching him get through the corner, it looks like the car is a little bit of a handful, but ultimately he's got the handle of it. So Cameron Stone, he's down, but he's not out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the factor of being a champion on iRacing comes into play. He's able to wheel that car with damage like it has none at all. And that's really, really impressive. Obviously, he is on the tail end of this pack, but to be even up there, as Craig Fryer comes down pit road to serve his penalty for passing under yellow.
Probably going to use that pit stop to fix a little bit more damage as well. He's got to come down to serve a penalty, might as well. And the car still looked like it had some damage he could have repaired. So another driver making his way down pit road as the side-by-side action goes nowhere up front. Everybody's still door-to-door, bumper-to-bumper. Jonathan Delaney, the only car able to really get out to a comfortable lead. But I got to wonder if they're just letting him get out to this lead so that they can get that draft slingshot around him. Because I think we saw in the first stint before that caution, Cody, time after time, drivers would get a run, they'd get side by side, they might be able to get a lap led even, but nobody was really able to quite get around Van de Sant and clear him completely. If they get bigger runs, if they lay back and let that draft slingshot them around, that may be the tactic to actually passing the leader and doing so successfully. Bryson Nixonbaugh, I'm sure, here on row 3 on the bottom, he's going to be real aggressive trying to get up front because Jonathan Delaney's leading this race. And if there's one thing we know about Bryce Nixonbaugh, it's that he is not the biggest fan of that number 4 machine, nor the driver piloting it. So he's going to want to get out front, and he's going to be aggressive to do it. But really right now, I think some of these guys are just trying to watch the competition, see what they're doing, and wait for the right opportunity.
Yeah, and something else to consider here, Bryson Hixenball, Adam Benefield, and Kevin Steele, they're on older tires than the rest of this field coming into pit around lap 21. So are their tires going to give up a little quicker than the rest of them, and that's going to cause something? And something else you mentioned earlier was about side draft. We know that a certain driver in this field leading right now loves the side draft.
Whoa, sideways,
Kevin Steele.
Hixenbaugh.
Kevin got into the back of Bryson Hixenball there a little.
That cost him a lot of time, but he should still be in the draft, so it's not over yet. But Hixenbaugh falling through the running order with that incident, that's going to put Cameron Stone up one more position. Now with the car pushing him from behind and the drafted cars ahead, maybe Cameron Stone's going to be able to work his way up through the grid. We'll have to wait and see. But up front, Jonathan Delaney under fire now. Stafford getting a little bit loose on the apron. That cost him some time. But nonetheless, Stafford getting good runs as they go 3 wide for second place. And we do have a replay on the top of the screen of what happened to Bryce Hixenbaugh. Looks like he got a little bit squirrely on the bottom lane. Kevin Steele not checking up quite in time. But again, a great save by the number 14. That is the beauty of these cars. Bottom of your screen, that's live. And these guys are 3 wide for second place. And man, oh man, Stafford side by side with Adam Benefield. And all this battling, that's allowing Jonathan Delaney to drive away with it here, Cody.
Yeah, and not what these drivers want to see is we're still almost 3 wide for second. Man, this racing has been impressive. These guys are going toe-to-toe, door-to-door, non-stop here. And it's giving us a great show. And as you can see, Adam Benefield closing in on the back of Jonathan Delaney. And there's another guy who is not the biggest fan of Jonathan Delaney as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when Adam Benefield gets up to him.
It is going to be interesting. Benefield's internet issues seem to have cleared up, so he hasn't blinked in quite a while as far as I can see, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he handles this battle for the lead and who he can get to help him from behind with the draft. But just quickly, before we get to the end of this event, as we are closing in on 10 to go, I just want to mention 3Wide TV is now a partner of YouTube. So if you would like to be a member for 99 cents a month and join the pit crew, you can do so by hitting that button next to the subscribe where it says join. There's a myriad of benefits that you will receive. It'll tell you all about it in a Dropbox, I believe. So if that sounds fascinating and you like getting this live racing action every single week, then maybe consider it. Back to the action. Joe Stafford falling through the grid a little bit. He was all the way up in third. Now he kind of fell out of the draft. Everybody formed up on the bottom and he didn't get the memo. He stayed down low. And Cody, I'm noticing a few drivers down low getting loose on this apron, scrubbing momentum. I gotta wonder if these cars are starting to get a little bit tight and they're not trying to use this apron to turn.
Yeah, I definitely think that is a factor. I've noticed a lot it is the cars with older tires. As you see here, Alex Van de Stanti going to the front here, trying to get back the lead where he dominated the first half.
And look at this power move around 2 cars in a single corner. He is going to try to get around Benefield. He's not quite clear, though. So he's going to have to try to stay on the bottom lane. A huge shove to Benefield from Jonathan Delaney. Delaney pushing him back to the lead. We got a lapped car up ahead, and that is David Stringle in the number 7. Now, he's a little bit off pace, doesn't have the draft. That is something that is going to affect this battle for the lead. And a little, near contact between Van de Sant and Delaney. Here he goes back to the bottom. Where does Stringle go? He's in the dead center of the track. He's going to have to choose a lane here, dropping down to the apron. Good move by the number 7. And here comes Delaney again, this 2-car tandem with Benefield and Kevin Steele pushing Delaney as well. So 3 cars trying to get clear of this number 16, and they can't do it. That just shows you how fast Alexander Van de Sant is right now.
Yeah, and Adam's blinking has caused some backlog in that top lane as he's trying to get out of the way because of his blinking. But it isn't quite working because of how close this battle is, as Cameron Stone has worked his way back up into 4th place. With that car and that damage, that is impressive.
Whoa, and a bit of a crossover. Cameron Stone moves up the track, Bryson moves down the track. That was very abrupt movement from the both of them. But you're right, Cody, that is very impressive that he was able to get back up here even with the damage, and they are going to stay side by side, 3 rows deep, and a little bit of contact. Benefield swirly through the track. Right rear into the wall. That's going to check up Kevin Steele. Finally, the number 16 gets clear as that high side begins to fade. You called it, Cody, that blinking was causing some issues, and I think right there it came to a head, but it's not over yet because here comes Benefield giving a shove to the number 4, and then he's going to stay up high. He's not even going to fall in line with the number 4. So, I mean, if you're Adam Benefield, I understand the need to stay in the action, to stay in the battle. It's unfortunate that he's blinking, and I'm sure he feels bad for his competition, but it's go time. At this point, it's not really his fault that the internet isn't holding up. He's going to try to get this win just like anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think anybody can win at this point of this race, as the top 8 are separated by under a second. So anything is going to happen in this final 7 laps here as we come to a close. And I don't know about you, Andre, but I am looking forward to see what happens when we get down to 2-3 to go.
Oh, it's going to be a ride. And look at this. Here comes Bryson Nixonbaugh involved in that little bit of a scuffle with Kevin earlier. He's able to work his way back up to 5th place right now. So he's got the 13 behind him. And right now, I don't think it's a matter of who's got the fastest car. I think it's a matter of picking the right lane, getting the draft, and staying alive, because these guys are really cranking up the intensity. I've seen the leaders bobble lap after lap, corner after corner. Delaney gets sideways. Alexander Van de Sant has been sideways a few times, and of course Benefield having that scuffle not long ago. These guys are not giving an inch, and again, Hicksonbaugh in particular, I'm sure he wants this win more than a lot of these drivers because his IROC experience last season was less than favorable. A lot of bad luck, similar to Cameron Stone. So, man, what a tight field of cars we have with only a handful of laps to go.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens is Bryson has finished 4th 3 times in championships. You know he wants to win this championship, prove the doubters wrong, and win something other than 21 races. So he's definitely looking to win as well, as it looks like Jonathan Delaney has taken the high lane, as Bryson Hicksonbaugh pushes Alex, trying to push him back to the lead.
Yeah, Alex Van de Sant, he is absolutely flying, trying to side draft that number 4 machine. It's just not quite working. It's so difficult to pass the leader as they bottleneck into turn 1. Kevin Steele a little bit sideways. That's going to check up Cameron Stone, and that's going to also open the door for Joe Stafford to work his way back up front. We mentioned he was kind of falling through the grid, fell out of the draft. Well, now he's back in the draft, and as we come to the line, it's going to be 3 laps to go when they cross this time, and it is truly anybody's game all the way up from the leaders back to Marshall Stanley, who is still on the lead lap, just a little bit behind our lead pack here. And again, anybody's game. This is not over yet. As here we go, Adam Benefield to the lead. He gets into the side of the number 4. They're able to correct it. I don't know how that wasn't a wreck. That was a spin that never happened. As Jonathan Delaney now has a huge shove from Van de Sant. Bryson Nixonbaugh getting a shove from Cameron Stone. 3 wide for 3rd place. Benefield in the middle. Kevin Steele on the outside. Bryson on the bottom. And somehow through all of that, despite the contact, despite the maneuver, it is Jonathan Delaney holding the lead, but now a strong charge from the number 16. We're on lap 66 out of 67, and Van de Sant is clear. The question now is, how much of a block is he going to have to throw? The number 4 makes contact with Van de Sant. Gets him a little bit loose. That's going to put him down to second place. Kevin Steele trying to take advantage, moving up on the high line. Jonathan Delaney making that car as wide as humanly possible, blocking both lanes, trying to make sure neither of these drivers are able to get the run that they need to get. White flag flies, and again, anybody's game. Here comes a charge from Benefield up to third. Jonathan Delaney trying to block both lanes. Once again, contact between Steele and Van de Sant. That might seal the deal for Jonathan Delaney. If these guys keep battling, it's going to be hard for them to get a run. They've got one more set of turns to do it. Side by side for second. Jonathan Delaney, again, moving up to block Steele, moving down to block Van de Sant. Does Van de Sant return the contact? No, he is unable. Kevin Steele with a side draft, but it's going to be Jonathan Delaney winning the inaugural race for this season of the 100% IROC Series.
Great racing here at the end, as there's a giant pileup after the finish, but Jonathan Delaney takes home the win, which I don't think we could have been treated to a better race there, Andre.
No, that was action-packed all the way through. And I got to tip my hat to every last driver in this event. It's not often you have a 67-lap race where every driver is just milliseconds away from one another and you only have one yellow flag. These guys did a phenomenal job tonight, driving so close to one another. Again, a lot of these drivers not very familiar with one another. They've all come from different leagues to cooperate in this sort of event. And man, despite not knowing each other, despite being a little bit out of their element, they all did about as good as they possibly could have, and they put on a wonderful show for us to watch. The final running order, as everybody has crossed the line, we're just going to work through it quickly as the leader burns it to the ground there. Winner, Jonathan Delaney. Alexander Van de Sant brings it home in second, 2/10 back, and only 0.07 of a second behind Van de Sant. You've got Kevin Steele rounding out the podium. Adam Benefield with a strong fourth-place finish after starting towards the back. Bryson Hixenbaugh is going to bring it home at P5. Joe Stafford, 6th. Cameron Stone with a wounded horse brings it home 7th. Marshall Stanley with a respectable 8th place. Robert Miller brings it home 9, fighting through the right rear damage early on in the event. First car lap down is going to be Timothy Latham in 10th. David Stringle brings it home 11th. Nate Siefker, Craig Fryer are going to round out the rest of the field. And Craig Fryer did take it behind the garage wall 21 laps prior to the ending of this event. So that's your final running order. We're going to try to organize some interviews if we can. We do have some of these guys in the waiting room. So I'll tell you what, I'll take third and first, Cody. I'll hand second to you, but we're going to start out with third place. Kevin Steele. Let's bring him up. Kevin Steele, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Kevin, that was definitely an awesome race to watch from our perspective up in the booth. You guys were door to door the entire time, and you particularly were all over the field. You spent some time towards the back, spent some time towards the front. You even led a lap, got yourself some bonus points. Just describe the experience of what it was like out there being in such close proximity for 67 laps.
Well, I mean, we really didn't know what to expect. That's kind of why, the random draw put me on the front row, and I kind of just figured I'd try battling a little bit and see how that went. We were 3 wide for the lead there at the beginning. I got a lap led, and Bryson and I kind of had the plan to pit as early as we could and see how that strategy played out, try and stay out of the chaos. And it kind of worked. I mean, the caution didn't help us. I'd have liked to have seen how that race played out had it went green, but it definitely the caution definitely caused an entertaining finish. These cars are awesome. That was a really fun race.
Yeah, it definitely looked fun. Again, from our perspective, it was action-packed all the way through. Now, you had a bit of a scary moment with Bryson Hixenbaugh. He was in front of you. He got loose on the apron, and you had to kind of check up to try to avoid him, but there was contact made. He got loose. You got loose. What is the handling like in these cars? I mean, how difficult of a situation was that?
For the most part, they're pretty, they're on the tight side. But when you get in a pack like that and you got somebody in front of you and somebody right behind you, it can be a little bit unpredictable. But I think the moment that you're talking about, we were stuck on the inside line, and that's not where you wanted to be with old tires, which we had. So we were just trying to get around whoever we could, or get to the outside if we could. And I think the two might have hit the apron in front of Bryson, and it caused a big checkup. I don't think I got any damage from it, but it's hard to tell. We can, in the cup cars, you're completely, when you're that close to somebody, you're completely blocked by the spoiler. These you can see under the wing and through the other guy's windshield a little bit, so you can kind of, tell where you're going a little bit. So it's a little chaotic, but you do have a little bit of a window that you can look through.
All right. Well, despite a mildly chaotic race, you brought it home third place. Is there anybody that you'd like to shout out or thank for the performance?
Yeah, I want to shout out to my parents watching. Hopefully they're still up. It's not too late. Thanks to you guys broadcasting. Thanks Damaris puts on this league, and he agreed to let Apex Designs be the title sponsor. I had an absolute blast designing these cars and coming up with the colors, and had a lot of fun with that. And I'm pretty excited with the third solid start to defending the championship. I wish I could have gotten up there and led more laps, but all in all, really good night. The first time I've had fun on iRacing in probably 8 months.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, Kevin, and good luck next week.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
Kevin Steele out of the booth, and Cody, I'm going to bring up Alex Van Desant. He's with you.
Alex, you have a copy?
I do. Hey there.
Hey, so welcome to the booth. Congrats on your second place finish. Early on in that race, you were definitely the car to beat. So what type of driving technique did you have to do to keep that lead early on?
Yeah, just a lot of managing the tires. I knew I was starting kind of in the middle of the pack, so that was pretty much the danger zone there. So I wanted to either get to the front as quickly as I could, or just drop to the back and hang out. I was able to get the lead pretty quickly, actually, and be side by side on the front row, at least, sort of leading. But that clean air really helped save the tires, and so later on, as everybody behind me was fighting like crazy, I could just cruise either in the high line or the low line, and it took care of them pretty well. Nailed the pit entry despite getting tapped, but then just sped on exit and put me back in the middle of the pack there.
And what was going through your mind after being in the front car for as long as you were, and then having to end up towards the back of the field? What was your strategy going through that last half of that race?
Yeah, well, I was hoping it'd be a little more chaotic, actually, after that restart, but we were just kind of running 2x2, all the way back, so a couple laps in, I realized, I need to make something happen, so I decided to kind of bully my way to the outside lane 3 wide, and that just scrambled everybody up, and I think that's what kicked it off. So that was fun, but just needed to make sure I didn't cause a wreck or get involved in something. So I was watching out for all of it. There was some weird netcode stuff going on, but it didn't. Nothing seemed to come of it. So just happy it was a nice, fun, clean race.
Absolutely, you were definitely fun to watch up here. Is there anyone you want to thank? Family members, anything like that?
Shout out or hi to my family at home. I think they're watching tonight, but yeah. But then thanks to, I guess, my usual sponsors. I obviously can't have a sponsored car in this, but lmcgear.com, Happy Trails Chili Company, Race First Broadcasting, and all the folks at Powerslide Motorsports.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us up here in the booth, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
And that was Alex Van Desant, who finished second. And Andre, I believe you will have our race winner, Jonathan Delaney.
Absolutely. Let's bring up our race winner, John Delaney. You got a copy?
Yeah, I do.
John, I'll tell you what, that was quite an interesting race for everybody, I think, from the front of the field to the back. You had a pretty eventful race. You were kind of spending some time loitering towards the back of the field, and then at the end of that thing, you found yourself up front, and you were making that car wide. You were blocking both lanes, trying to really maintain that lead, and you did a good job of it. You were one of the few cars that was really able to, get out front and prevent other cars from getting alongside and really challenging for it. What was that like? I mean, how comfortable were you in this car, and what was the winning edge there?
Yeah, I started mid-pack. I fell to the back, just trying to chill out, save some tires. And then around like lap 30, I started to move my way up to the front. I just couldn't go anywhere with it. Mainly due because everyone was just side by side, so it was hard to pick off positions and go to the front. So, we made our pit stop. We did really good in and off of pit road there. Caution came out perfectly. It was perfectly timed for me because it came out right after I pitted. So, those last 20 laps, man, I felt like Dale Jr. at Daytona 500, trying to work the lanes and stuff like that. But this car is, it has so much downforce, and the draft is so strong, just kind of like the Cup car. So it was kind of like I knew kind of what some possible things would happen, just because I'm used to this kind of package and racing. So, it was definitely, I had more of an edge. I probably on, some of these newer guys that don't race, oval that much. But it was, the car's fun to drive. You had to really, pick the right line. On old tires, the top was the fastest, and to be able to try and keep the lead, and try and with how fast the draft is, it was hard to do that. But after all, we were able to get it done. So yeah, it was definitely a very fun race.
Now, right towards the end, with only a handful of laps to go, you had a bit of a scary moment with Adam Benefield. You guys locked fenders coming through the corner, and when I saw that, man, I thought you guys were both on a one-way track towards the outside wall, but somehow you were both able to gather it up, get your cars separated, and not only that, but you're able to maintain your positions for the most part. Walk me through that little incident.
Yeah, Adam was blinking a little bit, so every now and then it was kind of hard to see where he was going and his next move. So, I was definitely keeping an eye on him, just because of that. And then I saw I think Alexander, he got right behind me, and I was trying to keep him to my inside to help block both the bottom and top line, so I wouldn't have to deal with the bottom line as much with the huge run, and he was able to just file in behind me. So Adam got this huge run down the front and tried slide jobbing me into turn one, and it was very close. I wasn't gonna lift though. I was making sure I stayed to that high line, and we definitely made some contact for sure, but we were both able to gather it up. And I think even Alexander gave me a little bump from behind too. So it was definitely very heart pumping moment for sure. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I believe with you having led laps and winning the race, you're going to be walking away from this race with the points lead, a little bit of an advantage over the other guys. Does that make you a little bit more comfortable going into the next few races here, or what's your approach?
Yeah, getting this win here is very, 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 very good to start of the season, and just this entire season in general, to try and as obtain as many points as possible and win the championship. So the schedule is we go to a road course, something I count myself pretty strong at, but we also have some road guys in here that I think are going to be strong, if not even stronger than me, though, at those there too. But one week we could we could be involved in a wreck, and getting this win is going to help me try and get that championship if that does happen.
Absolutely. Well, before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to shout out or thank?
Yeah, Damaris Higginbottom for running this. He did it last year. It went very well. He started again this year, and it's so far the season opener has been really good. So shout out to him for putting this all together. Apex Designs for all the paints you saw tonight. You guys up at the booth for broadcasting, you and Cody Bird. Let's see, everyone at home watching. And yeah, that's all I have.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, John, and congrats on the win.
Yep, thank you guys.
And that is Jonathan Delaney out of the booth, and that's just about going to do it for our post-race coverage. Cody, do you have any post-race thoughts?
And if every race is what we just saw from this week, we're in for another treat again this year, Andre. The 2 and 3 wide racing, just the side-by-side, inches and inches away from one another. That is some of the most impressive racing I think I have ever seen.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch, and I'm definitely looking forward to next week, where the viewers at home can catch us at Lime Rock. So we're gonna go road course racing, as John had mentioned there. So if you like a little bit of a left and right turn action, well, then you can find it right here on 3 Wide TV next week. And for that, that's gonna do it for us tonight. We'll catch you next time.